Hello everyone, welcome to OTHM Level 6 Diploma in Business Management. So today we are going to discuss Unit 6 of this level, that is Strategic Human Resource Management. First, we have the first learning outcome in which we would try to understand the role and importance of human resource management in achieving the organizational effectiveness. So we have the first assessment criteria in which we discuss the key concept and models that governs the strategic HRM. Now we will discuss these different models one by one. So first we have contingency model. It means that no single HR strategy fits all for the organization. It has the it depends approach, which means that HR policies should align with the specific context of the organization. It has some key factors. For example, first we have the business strategy, which means HR practices must align with the company's overall strategy. Organizational structure, which means flat or hierarchical structure influence HR needs. Then we have workforce characteristics, which means that skills, demographics, and behaviors of employees shape the HR decision. Then we have environmental variables, which means market competition, industry trends, and technological changes dictate the HR flexibility. Now we have the best practice model of HRM. There are universally effective HR practices which lead to superior performance in any organization, regardless of the context. Then we have a one size fits all approach, which means that certain HR practices are considered the best, and when implemented, can lead to improved organizational outcomes. Now we have some key best practices of it. For example, there is selective hiring, which means hiring the right talent for the job. Then we have employee development, which means continuous training and development opportunities. Then we have performance based compensation, which means there can be rewarding the employees based on their contribution and results. At last, we have the job security, which means providing stability to build employee commitment. Now we have Harvard framework of HRM, which means that HRM is influenced by multiple stakeholders and needs to balance interest to create the cohesive strategy. There is some pluralist approach, which means that HR practices must consider the interest of various stakeholders to create long-term sustainable success. There are some key elements of this framework, for example, stakeholder interest, which recognize the diverse needs and goal of the different groups. Then there is situational factor, which means there is internal and external factor which influence these strategies. Then we have HRM policy choice, which means the framework which emphasizes choosing HR policy that align with broader business objectives. At last, we have HR outcome, which means that we can include commitment, competence, congruence, and cost effectiveness of HR practices. Now we will discuss the Ulrich's model of HRM. So HRM functions should be structured to add maximum value to the organization through distinct roles. We have four key roles. First, we have a strategic partner in which we align HR strategies with overall business objectives. Then we have change agent, which manages and facilitates the organizational change. Then we have administrative expert, in which we ensure efficient delivery of HR services. Then we have employee champion, in which we focuses on employee needs, advocating for their well-being. Now we have control-based model of HRM. This model focuses on maintaining the tight control over the employees to ensure the alignment within the organizational objective. Now we have management control, in which we emphasize top-down control, where management closely monitors employee behavior. Then we have some core elements of it. First, we have a standardized procedure in which we have clear rules, policies, regulations that are set to manage employee conduct and output. Then we have supervision and monitoring, in which we have frequent oversight by managers and supervisor to enforce compliance and ensure consistency in work. Then we have performance management, in which there is regular assessments and evaluation of employees based on set targets and metrics. And at last, we have limited autonomy, in which employees have little decision making power or flexibility as control remains centralized with management. Now we have the resource based model of HRM. So it is the competitive advantage that is achieved by leveraging the organizational's internal sources. For example, we have people as assets, and it means that this model always emphasizes the strategic importance of human resource as a source of sustained competitive advantage. Then we have some core principle. For example, we have valuable resources in which there are employees that possess skills and competencies. Then we have rarity, in which the capabilities and talents within the workforce are unique to replicate. Then we have inimitability, which means that organizations, culture, knowledge base, and employee behaviors are different for the competitors to copy. And at last, we have non-substitutability, in which means that HR cannot be replaced by technology or other forms of capital. Now we have second assessment criteria, in which we evaluate the role and importance of strategic human resource management in organization. Now there is the alignment of HR and corporate strategy. It ensures that HR initiatives directly support the organizational objectives. It links the employee performance to corporate targets for cohesive progress. It facilitates smooth change management aligned with the strategic shift. It balances the long-term business goals with immediate workforce need. It also promotes a culture that mirrors the company's vision and mission, and it helps in prioritizing the resource and investment in key strategic areas. Now we have human capital management, which focuses on optimizing employees' skill and capabilities for growth. Then we treat employees as key assets which drive organizational success. Then we invest in continuous learning and development for competitiveness. Then we can improve the workforce planning to match future business needs. Then we can enhance decision making by utilizing HR analytics and insights. Then we encourage collaboration and teamwork through structured HR practices. Now we have the third assessment criteria, in which we analyze the framework of a strategic human resource management. Now, there are different types of strategies in strategic HR management. First, we have talent acquisition and retention strategies, which focus on hiring and keeping top talent to drive business success. Then we have employee development and training strategies, in which we implement programs that build skills and improve employee competencies. Then we have compensation and rewards strategies, in which we create pay structure and incentives that motivate and reward the performance. And at last, we have performance management strategies, in which we establish clear goals and appraisal to monitor and improve the employee output. Now we have the criteria for a successful strategy in strategic management. So first, we have to ensure the HR initiatives directly that can support the company's strategic priorities. Then we can create HR strategies that can evolve with shifting market or organizational demands. Then we can have the clear communication of strategies and precise execution by HR teams and management. Then we can gain the support of employees to ensure successful implementation of HR strategies. Then we can set the key performance indicators to track and assess the success of HR initiatives. And at last, we should make sure that all the HR strategies meet legal requirement and ethical standards. Now we have the second learning outcome, in which we understand the formulation and implementation of human resource strategies. First, we have the first learning outcome, in which we analyze the strategic human resource process. Now we have long-term versus short-term HR planning. First, we have long-term planning, which focus on future workforce needs and talent pipeline. Then we have short-term planning, which address immediate HR demands, such as a staffing for project. Then we have to integrate both short-term and long-term planning. That is key to adaptability. Then we have to evaluate potential shifts in business strategy or market demands. Then we have to focus on skill development for future roles in long-term planning. Then we have to assess workforce gap to meet the short-term business needs. Now we will explain the designing of HR management system. So first we have to develop a system that integrate recruitment, onboarding and employee engagement or employee management. Then we have to ensure the system support of both operational and strategic HR needs. Then we have to automate processes where possible to improve the efficiency. Then we can implement the feedback loops to improve HR system functionality. Then we can align the management system with employee development and performance tracking. And at last, we have to ensure the scalability of the HR management system for future growth. Now we have the second assessment criteria in which we assess the approaches of strategic human resource management. So there is a different strategic role of the frontline management. For example, first we have the operational execution, in which there are frontline managers, which ensures HR strategies are applied in daily operations. Then we have employee engagement. They play a key role in engaging employees and maintaining morale. Then we have talent development, in which there are frontline managers which identify and develop future leaders. Then we have performance management, in which they monitor and evaluate employee performance regularly. Then we have direct communication that act as a link between employee and higher management, which ensures clear communication of HR policies. And at last, we have feedback loop, in which we provide insights into the effectiveness of HR strategies and suggest necessary adjustments. Now we have to conduct a strategic HR review. For to do this, we have to regular review that and assess whether the current HR strategies are effective or not. We have to ensure HR strategies that align with organizational goals and objectives. We have to highlight the areas where HR processes or resources are lacking. We can use the workforce analytics to drive decision making during the review. We can modify strategies based on business changes or external factors. We can also engage key stakeholder in the review process for comprehensive feedback. Now we will discuss how to implement HR strategies. So first we have to clearly communicate the HR strategies to all the level of the organization. Then we have to ensure senior leader support and champion the HR initiatives. Then we provide necessary training to managers and employees to implement strategies. Then we can continuously monitor the progress of HR initiatives and make adjustment as needed. Then we have to engage employees in process to ensure alignment and buy-in. And we can use different KPIs and other metrics to evaluate the effectiveness of HR strategy implementation. Now we have the third assessment criteria, in which we analyze the development and implementation of human resource strategies. Now we'll discuss developing people and performance. To do this, first we have to do the skill gap analysis, in which we identify current skill gap within the organization and areas for improvement. Then we have training and development programs, in which we create targeted programs to enhance employee skill and competencies. Then we have leadership development, in which we develop future leaders through succession planning and leadership programs. Then we have performance appraisal system, in which we implement system for regular employee evaluation to track progress. Then we have employee engagement, in which we foster engagement through career development opportunities and meaningful work. Then we have continuous learning culture, in which we encourage a culture of learning and adaptability to ensure long-term growth. Now we have to assess the organizational competence. To do this, first we have the organizational competency framework, in which we establish a different framework to define the core competencies required for success. Then we have benchmark for competence level, in which we measure current organizational competencies against industry standard. Then we can identify strength and weaknesses, in which we analyze key areas where organization excels or needs improvement. Then we have leadership competency evaluation, in which we evaluate the leadership team's competency in driving strategic goals. Then we have building future competencies, in which we identify future competencies required for organizational growth and sustainability. Now we have performance and development strategies. First, we have to set clear and measurable goals for both organizational performance and individual development. Then we have to create plans for employees not meeting performance standard to help them improve. Then we personalize the development plans to align employee growth with organizational goals. Then we can use different KPIs and performance metrics to track the success of development strategies. And then we have to implement system for continuous feedback and improvement. And at last, we have to ensure the employee development which aligns with changing business needs and objectives. Now we have the third learning outcome, in which we would be able to critically analyze the use and application of a range of HR strategies which are designed to improve the employee and organizational performance. So we have the first assessment criteria, in which we evaluate human resource strategies for an organization. So first we will discuss the organizational development and transformation. Organizational development focuses on long-term improvement and transformation within the company. It aligns the HR strategies with organizational mission, values, and culture. It manages the transformation through effective change initiatives. HR is also involved in guiding organizational change and development. It measures the success of development initiatives on company performance. It adopts a mindset of ongoing development to meet market demands. Now we have the next slide about culture management, in which we evaluate strategies to foster a support and inclusive workplace culture. We have to ensure that the HR strategies reflect and promote organizational values. We have to address the challenge of shifting organizational culture. We have to enhance employee engagement through culture management. And there is the role of leadership to drive cultural initiatives. We can use different surveys and feedback to evaluate the current culture and areas for improvement. Now we have knowledge management, in which involve creating, sharing, and using knowledge effectively. It facilitates system and process to capture organizational knowledge. It encourages a culture of knowledge sharing within the organization. It assesses how knowledge management strategies improve the decision making. It ensures that key knowledge is retained within the organization. Leveraging technology to support knowledge management process. Now we have to develop the trust and the reward. HR strategies that foster the trust between management and employees are very important. It promotes transparent communication to build trust. It evaluates the reward strategy to recognize and motivate employees. It ensures that the reward system are linked to performance outcomes and how trust impact employee engagement and retention. And it measures the effectiveness of trust building and reward strategy. Now we have talent management and succession planning. Talent management ensures that organization attract, develop, and retains top talent. It prepare future leaders through targeted development programs. It identify current and future talent needs based on organizational goals. It develop different strategies to retain and nurture high potential employees. It ensures diversity and inclusion within the talent management strategies. It assesses the effectiveness of talent management and succession planning initiatives. Then we have resourcing strategies. First, we have HR planning, which is about to evaluate the strategies to ensure that organization has the right people in the right roles. Then there is flexibility in workforce, which ensures the flexibility in staffing to meet challenge of to meet changing business needs. Then there is talent retention, which means to develop strategies to retain the key talent within the organization. Then there is recruitment process, in which we evaluate the effectiveness of recruitment and onboarding process. Then we have cost effectiveness, in which we ensures the that resourcing strategies are cost effective while meeting organizational demands. Then we have evaluating the resourcing success, in which we measure the success through metric, for example, retention rate and time to hire. Now we have learning and development strategies, which means that we have to build a culture where continuous learning is encouraged and supported. We have to implement these strategies that promote organizational wide learning. We have to develop individual learning plans that are tailored to employee career goals. We have to assess the impact of learning programs on performance and retention, and we have to ensure that learning program must align with the organizational strategy. And at last, we have to use the feedback and performance data to evaluate learning and development success. Now we have the second assessment criteria, in which we assess human resource strategies and their application in the organization. So first we have to discuss the reward strategy. It assesses how rewards are designed to motivate and retain the employees. It evaluates both monetary and non-monetary rewards, and it explains how the reward strategy is structured to align with company goals. It is the process which involved in creating a reward system that suits the organizational needs. It assesses how reward strategies influence the employee engagement and productivity, and it is about the using of KPIs, for example, retention rate and employee satisfaction, to measure the success of the reward strategy. Now we have the learning and development strategies, which assess how personal development plans are applied and aligned with organizational goals. It includes the impact of fostering a learning culture across the organization. It evaluates how the organizational implement these strategies to promote continuous learning. It assesses the tools and resources that are provided for employee development. It uses feedback assessment and performance data to measure the effectiveness of learning strategies. Then we have to ensure the learning and development initiatives are directly supported for the organization's broader strategic goals. Then we have talent management and succession planning, which assess how talent management strategies are applied within the organization. It evaluates the effectiveness of succession planning to prepare future leaders. It assesses the strategies to retain the high potential employees and future leaders. It evaluates the application of diversity, and it also assesses how well talent management aligns with the organizational immediate long-term goals. It uses different metrics to measure the success. Now we have the fourth learning outcome, in which we would be able to critically evaluate the various key perspectives within the strategic age. So first we have diversity management and equal opportunities, which emphasize the importance of creating an inclusive workplace that value the diversity and ensures the equal opportunities. In many organizations, diversity is now the strategic advantage which improve creativity. And it is the reviewing policy which ensures that all the employees have access to all the opportunities. In the global economy, the diversity management is again very crucial for managing the talent from different cultures, and there are different companies that use the different metrics, for example diversity hiring rate and employee satisfaction surveys, to measure the success of their diversity management. And there is the balancing diverse workforce needs while maintaining a unified company culture. Now, what is culture, equality, and diversity? If we talk about cultural sensitivity, then it is the modern HR strategy which emphasizes the importance of understanding and respecting the culture differences in the organization. If we talk about promoting equality, then HR must ensure that all the employees, regardless of background, have access to same resources and opportunities. And if we talk about diversity as a strategic goal, then more companies are now seeing the diversity as not just a compliance issue, but also a strategic goals that contributes to the overall success of the organization. If we talk about inclusion practices, then it is to create the programs and policies that promote inclusion, for example, employee resource groups and diversity training. If we talk about the evaluating cultural integration, then HR reviews the success of cultural integration through the feedback, engagement surveys, and performance indicators. And at last, we have to talk about benefit of diversity, which means organizations with diverse team often see increased innovation, better problem solving, and improved business performance. Now we have the second assessment criterion, which we evaluate contemporary issues affecting the strategic HRM. So, what is internationalism and challenges for strategic management? HR has to face the challenges of managing employees across different countries, and it has to ensure compliance with different employment laws. It has to manage the cultural differences, which is very important, and it has to overcome the language barriers also with communication challenges, and it has to handle different challenges of managing teams. And it is important to provide global teams with training. Now, what is downsizing and its strategic implications? It is basically the economic pressure, restructuring, and automation which often lead to workforce reduction. Downsizing can severely affect the remaining employees' morale, engagement, and trust in the organization. So, it is a significant risk of the downsizing and just losing the top talent, which can weaken the organization's future potential. So, HR must manage the downsizing process with care, ensuring legal compliance and clear communication, and must offer career transition service to support the employees during layoffs. Downsizing may provide short term cost saving, but it could damage the organization's reputation. Now, what is work life balance? Employees today always prioritize work life balance more than ever. So, HR strategies must accommodate with flexible working hours, and HR needs to implement the programs that support employees' mental health and overall well being to avoid burnout. Organizations must offer the strong work life balance to see the higher employee retention. HR must also ensure that the flexible working arrangements do not compromise productivity and business goals, and they must have to use the employee feedback, engagement surveys, and performance review to assess the success of work life balance initiatives. So thank you so much. This is all about Unit 6, that is Strategic Human Resource Management of Level 6 Diploma of OTHM in Business Management. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Thank you.